I'm Don Moores, and welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. Artificial turf playing field surfaces can be dangerous, especially to our kids. Diana Conway, a citizen activist, is here to explain why parents and friends of young people who use these fields should be very, very concerned and think twice. And we should all be thinking twice before we place any more at our schools. You're very, very concerned about the proliferation of artificial fields that our kids are playing on. And maybe, we all have seen these, and there are all these all-weather fields that are hyped up that are going to, lower costs over time, don't need as much maintenance, and our kids can play there all the time. But there's so much more to the story, isn't there?
There are a lot of problems with artificial turf fields that are just starting to appear now, so that people are literally ripping them out in Europe and teams are refusing to play on them. The three main categories are toxicity, heat and injury, and then the third one is cost. And on all three bases, artificial turf is a bad deal.
Now, we have such a short time, and I know that everyone is going to be asking questions here.
Right.
So in one sentence each,
Okay.
go through the toxics, one sentence about the heat and injury, and one sentence on the cost, and then we can talk about that.
How long are the sentences? Okay,
Just right to the point. 'Cause we gotta-
toxicity is an easy one because everything that's good for a tire is bad for a child or anybody.
Wow.
And so you're putting kids onto 30 to 50,000 shredded waste tires. Those would normally be considered hazardous, toxic waste, but if you shred them up,
And that's what
the little
what's
black-
consisting.
yeah,
That's the black
lead,
pellets
that
mercury,
Okay.
neurotoxins.
All right, so we got tires and all the awful stuff that are in tires. Second, on the heat, what's with the heat?
The heat is generally 50 to 70 degrees above ambient air temperature on a sunny day. That is lethal. So we give communities heat warnings for 105 degrees, and then we ask athletes, children or otherwise, to get out on these fields at 130. They've been measured up to 200.
And what, just right at the foot level, right where they're touching the surface, or going?
Yeah, no, so
Okay.
it's highest at the lowest level. So,
Right.
for example, the youngest kids are at highest risk.
Okay.
It's for people who are athletes that roll in it a lot, whether it's a goalie or something like that. It's a much higher
So the
issue.
rubber, the tires are absorbing the heat, or
The whole surface. So, and the plastic grass
cost.
costs.
By the way, there's a website that people can
I'm
go
sorry,
to
yes.
while you're talking.
It's called www.safehealthyplayingfields, plural, safehealthyplayingfields.org. It's got a ton of information on all three categories. In terms of the injuries, artificial turf is known to be much harder, and it gets hard fast. Richard Montgomery and Walter Johnson High School both came in above the levels that are considered acceptable for athletes, and these are young people.
Okay.
And so
What kind
does
of
our
injuries are they? Ankles? Are they knees?
They generally tend to be lower body torque injuries, often without impact with another athlete, because the artificial turf grabs cleats differently. And so dirt, if it gets divots in it, is actually doing its job because it allows a rotation without the lock of a foot and then the rotation of the knee or the hip. A lot of ACL injuries.
And let me just say that even that withstanding, if you are saying playing soccer or football and you dive, fall, that, as you call strawberry or everything, is more of a problem than normal. Okay, just imagine you falling on concrete and you scrape yourself.
Sure.
That's why you see, if you look at the football that's on now, you'll see a lot of the athletes with this long pad.
And the soccer players are
Same
wearing
thing.
bare legs, and they're getting
Exactly.
these
So
massive,
is that how the
vicious.
toxicity is transferred
Well, there are
through-
three vectors for toxicity: inhalation, ingestion, or dermal uptake. And so this is a huge raw scab,
Yeah.
and you're getting lead and mercury exposure. There's also MRSA on these fields.
So
Oh, my
I know that MANA serves in 60 elementary schools. What's the extent of the problem? In MCPS, are there artificial turfs used throughout, only at high schools?
So far, they're only at 6 high schools, but
Okay.
generally speaking, the Board of Education is very strongly in support of them because they want what they call field equity for kids. It's sort of weird because normally you think of poor children being exposed to the highest risk, like lead paint. This is sort of the reverse, where the more affluent communities see this as a real benefit, a real draw, and so they're getting them first. Like I said, Richard Montgomery, Walter Johnson, Quince Orchard, Damascus, is getting one soon, and they're considered attractive. And yet, if you look at our professionals, they hate them. You get people like Abby Wambach or Hope Solo who sued FIFA for having to play on artificial turf because the men were getting grass, which is considered a superior
We have a
surface.
minute.
Well, so
minute
the
left, so let's-
parents are in favor of it? Well, what about taxpayers and the cost of it?
The cost is a huge issue, and this is where the industry has done a great job of marketing because they look at the cost across their 8-year warranty. If you look at it and compare it to a well-maintained grass field, it's actually much less expensive. And we know people who've actually run companies and do this professionally who say they can run 2 to 3 natural grass fields for the cost of 1 artificial turf field. And Montgomery County has a sole bid contract with one of the companies that's been sued the most. It's called Field Turf, $1.3 million per field every 8 years. People don't realize they have to be replaced every 8 years. So if the boosters come up with the first bunch, the rest is on people who aren't even there to approve it.
Wow.
It's a lot of money. We've got failing HVAC, we've got failing buildings, we've got kids with a lot of needs.
And we've got a lot of needs. Diana, thank you so much. And our need right now, unfortunately, is to end. But thank you for bringing this to our attention. And thank
pleasure.
each of you for what a great show and great interaction. And I hope all of you enjoyed it. Thank all of you and the viewing audience for joining us as well for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I'm Don Moores, inviting you to join us next week at this very same time.